I never thought my life would take such a drastic turn in a single night. For years, I believed I had found the perfect man in Jack. We were the ideal couple, or at least that's what I thought. We had a peaceful life, filled with small moments of happiness and intimacy that seemed straight out of a romantic movie. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I believed. Everything changed on that summer night. Jack invited me to a party on the outskirts of the city, at a house I had never seen before. I found it strange, as we usually preferred to stay home or go out with our usual group of friends. But he insisted so much that I finally agreed, thinking that maybe he wanted to surprise me with something special. We arrived at the party, and the atmosphere was completely different from what I was used to. The music pounded against the walls, colourful lights flashed frantically, and the air was heavy with a sweet scent I couldn't identify. I felt immediately uncomfortable, but Jack seemed to be in his element. It was then that he introduced me to Ryan, a tall man with a piercing gaze who greeted me with an enigmatic smile. There was something about him that unsettled me, a feeling that he knew more than he let on. Jack left us alone, claiming he was going to get some drinks. Ryan began talking to me with a familiarity that disconcerted me. He seemed to know a lot about me, details that only someone very close would know. My intuition screamed that something wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. After what seemed like an eternity, I decided to go look for Jack. What I found left me paralyzed in a dark corner of the garden. I saw my boyfriend passionately kissing a woman I had never seen before. The world stopped at that instant. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach and was left breathless, but that wasn't the worst part. When I finally managed to react and approached them, I heard something that chilled my blood. Jack was saying to the woman, "Don't worry, honey. Sarah is entertained with Ryan. We have the whole night to ourselves." At that moment, everything made sense. The invitation to the party, the introduction to Ryan, the familiarity with which he spoke. To me, everything had been meticulously planned by Jack. He had deliberately handed me over to a stranger so he could continue his affair without raising suspicions. The revelation hit me with the force of a tsunami. The perfect relationship I thought I had was a carefully constructed farce. Jack, the man I had loved and blindly trusted for years, had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. I ran out of the party, with tears blurring my vision and my heart in pieces. I didn't know where to go. I just wanted to get as far away as possible from that nightmare. I ended up in a nearby park, sitting on a bench, trying to process what had just happened. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: pain, anger, confusion, shame. How could I have been so blind? How long had he been deceiving me? Who was really the man with whom I had shared my life? I spent the night awake, alternating between moments of inconsolable crying and others of cold determination. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, I made a decision. I wasn't going to leave things like this. I couldn't allow Jack to get away with it. The following days were hell. I locked myself in my apartment, unable to face the outside world. Jack called me constantly, left worried messages, acting as if nothing had happened. His hypocrisy only fueled my anger. It was then that I decided to start my own investigation. I began to review old messages, bills, call logs, anything that could give me clues about Jack's double life. What I discovered left me stunned. The deception hadn't started that night at the party. Jack had been leading a double life for a long time. I found evidence of multiple affairs, secret social media accounts, even a second phone I had never seen. Each new revelation was like a dagger in my heart, but it also gave me strength to move forward. I realized that I had been the victim of an elaborate web of lies and manipulation. Jack had used my trust and love to keep me close while he was involved with other women. What hurt the most wasn't just the physical betrayal, but the coldness with which he had planned it all. He had put me in a vulnerable situation, handing me over to a stranger just to get rid of me temporarily. The cruelty of his actions left me breathless. As I delved deeper into my investigation, the initial pain began to transform into a cold, calculated anger. I no longer just wanted answers. I wanted justice. I wanted Jack to feel even a fraction of the pain he had caused me. I decided that the best way to get revenge was to publicly unmask him. I wanted to destroy the reputation he valued so much, expose his true nature to everyone around him. But for that, I needed more information. In an act of bravery that still surprises me today, I decided to contact the woman I had seen him with at the party. Her name was Olivia, and to my surprise, she agreed to meet with me. The encounter with Olivia was revealing. It turned out that she too had been deceived. Jack had made her believe he was single, weaving an elaborate web of lies to maintain both relationships in parallel. Seeing the pain in Olivia's eyes was like looking in a mirror. At that moment, something changed inside me. It was no longer just about my pain, but about that of all the women who had fallen into Jack's web. Olivia and I decided to join forces. Together, we planned how to confront him and expose his lies to everyone. My story isn't over yet. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks. Back to the story. As we prepared our plan, something unexpected began to happen. Ryan, the man I initially believed to be Jack's accomplice, reappeared in my life. It turned out that he too had been deceived by Jack, who had used him as a distraction without his knowledge. Ryan offered to help us in our mission to unmask Jack. At first, I was reluctant. The wound of betrayal was still fresh, and I couldn't easily trust anyone. However, as we worked together, I began to see a different side. Of him, Ryan was kind, understanding, and patient. He listened to my fears and frustrations without judging me, and little by little, he became a fundamental pillar of support. I found myself eagerly anticipating our meetings, enjoying his company in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. But I refused to acknowledge these emerging feelings. The fear of being hurt again paralyzed me. How could I even think about trusting someone else after what had happened? As I dealt with this emotional confusion, our plan to expose Jack began to take shape. We gathered all the evidence we had: messages, photos, call logs. We even got testimonies from other women who had been deceived by him. The day of the confrontation came sooner than I expected. We organized a meeting with close friends and family, both mine and Olivia's. Jack, of course, knew nothing of our plans. When he entered the room and saw us all gathered, his face went pale. I could see the fear in his eyes as he tried to maintain his composure. It was then that Olivia and I stood up and began to tell our story. We revealed every lie, every deception, every manipulation. We showed the evidence we had gathered. I watched as Jack's mask crumbled in front of everyone. His friends looked at him with disgust, his family with disappointment. But what impacted me the most was my own reaction. As I spoke, I felt as if a huge weight was lifting from my shoulders. I no longer felt shame or guilt. I felt powerful, liberated. Jack tried to defend himself, but his excuses sounded hollow in the face of the avalanche of evidence. Finally, he broke down. He admitted everything between tears and pleas for forgiveness, but it was too late. The damage was done, and there was no going back. After that day, my life changed drastically. I felt as if I had woken up from a long dream. The pain was still there, but it no longer consumed me. I had learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and above all, about myself. Olivia and I became close friends. Sharing that experience united us in a way I never would have imagined. Together, we began to heal and rebuild our lives. And then there was Ryan. As time passed, I found myself thinking about him more and more. His unconditional support throughout the process had meant more than I could express in words. One day, as we walked through the park where I had spent that fateful night after the party, Ryan took my hand. It was a simple gesture, but loaded with meaning. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel afraid. Instead, I felt hope. I realized that true love isn't built on lies or manipulations. It's built on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. And maybe just maybe, I had found that in Ryan. It wasn't easy to open up again. The ghost of Jack's betrayal still haunted me, but little by little, with patience and a lot of communication, Ryan and I began to build something beautiful together. I learned that sometimes it's necessary to go through darkness to find the light, that pain can be a powerful teacher if we're willing to listen to its lessons, and that love, true love, can come when we least expect it and in the most unexpected ways. Today, as I write these words, I look back and barely recognize the woman I was before that night. I've grown, I've healed, I've forgiven not Jack, but myself for having allowed someone to treat me that way. My relationship with Ryan isn't perfect because nothing in life is, but it's real, it's honest, and it's ours. We've learned to trust again, to love without fear, and to value each other. Jack's betrayal, although painful, taught me a valuable lesson: that self-love is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Now I know that I deserve to be truly loved, without deception or manipulation. Sometimes, when I look at Ryan, I still feel a flash of fear. The what if whispers in my mind. But then I remember everything we've been through together, how he's supported me in my darkest moments, and that fear dissipates. I've learned that love isn't a guarantee against pain. We can't control the actions of others, but we can choose how we respond to them. I can choose to live in fear, or I can choose to live with hope, and I choose hope. Olivia remains an important part of my life. Our friendship, forged in the fire of shared betrayal, has become precious to me. We remind each other of our strength, our resilience. Sometimes I wonder what became of Jack. The last I heard, he was trying to rebuild his life away from all of us who once knew him. Part of me hopes he's learned from his mistakes, that he's grown as a person. Another part has simply learned to let go. My story is a testament that the end of something can be the beginning of something better. That sometimes what seems to be our worst nightmare can become the key that opens the door to a more authentic and fulfilling life. Today, I look to the future with optimism. I don't know what awaits me, but I know I have the strength to face it. I've learned to trust myself, to value myself, to not settle for less than I deserve. And if there's something I'd like to share with whoever is reading this, it's the following: no matter how dark the path may seem, there's always light at the end. Self-love is the beacon that will guide you through the fiercest storms. Trust in yourself, be patient with your healing process, and never, ever settle for less than you deserve. My story is a reminder that true love exists. It may not be as we imagine it, it may come in the most unexpected ways, but it's there. We just need to have the courage to open our hearts again, to be vulnerable, to believe. Today, as I write these words, sitting on the porch of the house Ryan and I bought together, I feel a deep gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons learned, for the friendships forged, for the love found. Life is a journey full of unexpected turns. Sometimes it takes us down dark and winding roads, but it's those roads that teach us who we really are. They're the ones that make us stronger, wiser, more compassionate. My story isn't just a story of betrayal and deception. It's a story of redemption, of growth, of renewed love. It's a story of hope. And as the sun sets on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I smile because I know that tomorrow will be a new day, full of possibilities, and I'm ready to face it with an open heart and a strong spirit. As I reflect on my journey, I can't help but think about how every experience, even the most painful ones, shapes us and prepares us for what's to come. Jack's betrayal, although devastating at the time, was the catalyst I needed to rediscover myself and my worth. I vividly remember the days following the revelation. I felt lost, as if I were adrift in a sea of doubts and pain. I questioned every moment of our relationship, every word of love he had ever said to me. Was there any truth in them? Or had it all been an elaborate lie? But with time, I learned to separate my memories from the reality I now knew. I understood that not all the happy moments had been false, but they were tainted by Jack's dishonesty. It was a difficult process, but necessary for my healing. Therapy played a crucial role in my recovery. At first, I resisted the idea of sharing my most intimate thoughts with a stranger. But my therapist, Dr. Thompson, became an invaluable guide on my path to healing. She helped me process my pain, understand my behavior patterns, and most importantly, rebuild my self-esteem. It was during one of our sessions when I had an important revelation. Dr. Thompson asked me, "Sarah, what do you think you deserve in a relationship?" I remained silent for a long moment, realizing that I had never asked myself that question. I had always been so focused on pleasing others, on being the perfect girlfriend that I had lost sight of my own needs and desires. That was a turning point in my healing process. I began to explore who I really was, what I wanted from life. And from a relationship, I rediscovered passions I had set aside. Like painting and writing, I began to travel alone, something I had always wanted to do but had never dared. Each small step I took towards my independence and self-knowledge was a victory. Each day that passed without crying over Jack was a triumph. Little by little, I rebuilt my life, piece by piece. Olivia became an integral part of this process. Our shared experiences united us in a unique way. We supported each other on difficult days and celebrated our achievements together. Seeing her growth and strength inspired me to keep moving forward. And then there was Ryan. Our relationship developed slowly, cautiously. We both carried scars from our past experiences and were aware of the fragility of trust. But there was something in the way he looked at me, in how he listened attentively to every word I said, that made me feel truly valued. I remember the first time Ryan told me, "I love you." We were in a small coffee shop discussing a book we had both read. In the middle of our animated conversation, he stopped, looked me in the eyes, and simply said it. It wasn't a grand or planned moment, it was simple and honest, just like our relationship. At that moment, I felt fear. The ghost of Jack and his lies still lurked in the corners of my mind. But as I looked at Ryan, I saw the sincerity in his eyes. And for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe our relationship hasn't been an easy road. We've had to work hard to overcome our fears and insecurities. We've had arguments, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But what makes our relationship different is our willingness to communicate openly and honestly, even when it's difficult. We've established a pact of total honesty. There are no secrets between us, no taboo topics. We share our fears, our hopes, our dreams, and in that shared vulnerability, we found a strength we didn't know we had. As our relationship grew, so did my confidence in myself. I began to see my experience with Jack not as a mark of shame, but as a source of strength. I had survived one of the worst betrayals imaginable and had come out stronger on the other side. I decided to channel that strength into something positive. I began writing a blog, sharing my experience and the lessons I had learned. To my surprise, it resonated with many people who had gone through similar situations. I received messages of gratitude from people all over the country, telling me how my words had given them hope in their darkest moments. This led me to take a step further. Along with Olivia, we founded a support group for people who have been victims of infidelity and betrayal. We created a safe space where people could share their stories, process their pain, and find the strength to move forward. Seeing other people find their path to healing has been incredibly rewarding. It has reminded me how much I've grown and how far I've come since that fateful night at the party. Ryan has been a constant support in all these efforts. His love and encouragement have given me the confidence to pursue my dreams and use my voice to help others. Together, we've built a life I never would have imagined possible in my darkest days. Recently, Ryan surprised me with a trip to the beach. As we walked along the shore at sunset, he asked me to marry him. It wasn't a grand or elaborate proposal. It was simple, sincere, and perfect, just like us. As I looked at the ring on my finger, I thought about how far I had come from the shattered woman I once was to the strong and confident person I've become. And I realized that in a way I should thank Jack, not for his betrayal, of course, but because that experience forced me to look at myself, to face my fears, and to rediscover my worth. It taught me that true love begins with self-love. As Ryan and I plan our future together, we do so with our eyes wide open. We know that love requires work, honesty, and constant commitment, but we also know that it's worth it. My story isn't just a story of betrayal and recovery. It's a story of self-discovery, growth, and renewed love. It's a story of hope. And as I look towards the future, with Ryan by my side and a world of possibilities before us, I feel grateful. Grateful for the lessons learned, for the friendships forged, and for the love found. Because in the end, I've learned that true love isn't a fairy tale. It's imperfect, sometimes difficult, but always worth it. And most importantly, it begins with loving oneself. So to whoever is reading this, I want to say, no matter how dark the path may seem, there is light at the end. Self-love is your compass, your beacon in the storm. Trust yourself. Be patient with your healing process and never, ever settle for less than you deserve. Because you, just like me, deserve a love that makes you grow, that challenges you to be the best version of yourself, that accepts you as you are. A love that is honest, respectful, and genuine. And if you haven't found it yet, don't despair, because the journey towards that love begins with you. It begins with loving yourself, with knowing yourself, with valuing yourself. As I write these last words, I feel a deep peace. I have found my way through the darkness and have emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable of loving than I ever thought possible. My story continues to be written every day, and although I don't know exactly what the future holds, I know I'm ready to face it with love, with courage, and with the certainty that I deserve the best that life has to offer. Because in the end, that's the most important lesson I've learned, that we all deserve a love that uplifts us, that inspires us, that makes us feel safe and valued, and that love begins with ourselves. So, dear reader, I invite you to begin your own journey of self-discovery and self-love. Because believe me, when I tell you that, on the other side of your fears and doubts, a life full of possibilities and a love greater than you've ever imagined awaits you. And remember, your story isn't over yet. The most exciting chapter could be just around the corner. Keep your heart open, your spirit strong, and never stop believing in the power of true love. Because in the end, that's what we're all looking for, isn't it? A love that makes us feel complete, that inspires us to be better people, that makes us feel safe and valued, and that love, dear reader, begins with you. So go out into the world with your head held high, your heart open, and the certainty that you deserve the best that life has to offer. Because you do, we all do. And who knows, maybe, one day, at the most unexpected moment, you'll find that love that will change your life forever. Just like I did until then, love with all your heart, live with passion, and never, never stop believing in the magic of true love. Because believe me when I say it exists. And when you find it, you'll know that every tear, every moment of doubt, every broken heart will have been worth it. Because true love, the love that makes you grow and inspires you to be the best version of yourself, is the most precious gift that life has to offer. And you, dear reader, deserve it all.